All right, as I mentioned in the previous video, the next section of this video lecture series, this is now part 5, is going to concern the VMware ecosystem for the virtual desktop infrastructure, specifically VMware Horizon 7. Now, VMware Horizon 7 has been with us for a while now. VMware Horizon 7.0 was released in March of 2016. The current version, 7.12, now, and the version numbering goes 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, up 10, 11, 12. So I'm not talking about 7.1.2. I'm talking about 7.12. And I guess I should say that, 7.12, to make it more clear. Anyway, so it's been with us for a while. In that same time frame, we've gone from VMware Workstation 12.11 to VMware Workstation 15.22, and now we're at slightly after the March 2016 to March 2020 time frame. Working beyond that window, we're now dealing with VMware Workstation 15.5.6 to be specific. Anyway, so we're going to talk about VMware Horizon 7. I think we can expect VMware Horizon 7 to be with us for quite a while. Now, there are a number of moving parts, shall we say, to this machine, this conceptual machine, this information system. And looking at them graphically, it looks like this. So, we've got our ESXi hosts, our SANs, our desktop pools full and linked. We've got our virtual switches. We've got multiple connections through the network, management, SANs, production. We've got our vCenter server with a view composer, all that talking to our Horizon connection server, talking to directory services, most likely an Active Directory domain. And then all that in the back end, so to speak, to our clients, our our Horizon connection server, the connection broker, connecting these folks out here, your clients, your remote clients, potentially even going through the DMZ, through a connection server, using the PC over IP protocol, which is a protocol for presenting graphical user interfaces across the network. Alternatively, on the inside of the network, inside the DMZ, in the secure part of your network, using Horizon clients on, shall we say, the local cloud, as opposed to the global cloud. So you've got your Horizon clients inside, your Horizon clients outside. You've got your connection server, your vCenter server, your security server, your SAN storage, your ESXi hosts, your desktop pools, your users. Like, it's complicated. So take as much time with this as you need. If you have to go back over these lists and draw a topology or an architecture diagram like this for yourself to make sure you own the information, go for it. So let's talk about this linchpin, because really and truly, when you're talking about your ESXi host and your virtual switches, your vCenter server is your control point. Once we start talking about Horizon, the Horizon connection server is kind of the linchpin for that layer of extra architecture, because we've almost got our basic vCenter architecture and then a Horizon architecture stacked on top of it. And the Horizon connection server is the linchpin of that Horizon architecture, like your vCenter server is the linchpin of your virtual data center architecture. Anyway, so let's talk about the role of that connection server. Its function is to manage your connections between your Horizon clients and Horizon managed desktops running the agent software. Now, one thing to note here, these things in here, these virtual desktops have a view agent. It's not just a virtual machine sitting on the network. Horizon can't just grab anything. It has to go. It has to have something to talk to, so it can communicate between these full or linked clone desktop pools and the connection server and the end user and the client. So there's an agent running in there, just like your ESXi hosts have a vCenter agent, so that your vCenter server can send them instructions. Its role is, so it manages the connection. It's going to authenticate these connection requests, provide access. So we're talking about authentication and authorization, two of those pieces of AAA. It will also host the administrative console for Horizon, and it will work with VMware vCenter to manage, deploy, and maintain those virtual desktops. Now let's talk about hardware requirements. Now, in terms of processing power, you're going to need at least one 4 gigahertz CPU. That's the bare minimum. That does not sound like a good idea to me. Having as many CPUs as possible, as many cores as possible, sounds like a good idea. So memory-wise, 4 gigs of RAM, you might be able to manage this. 8 gigs sounds a whole lot better. Though honestly, if this thing, this is the Horizon Composer. The other thing you're going to want is a lot of disk capacity. Now, it doesn't need to have a massive amount of disk capacity because those pools are actually stored on a SAN. It would not be a good idea to store all this information local to this one system. Now, if in theory you have a very small implementation and you want to make your give your NAS this role as well, maybe you could get away with that. But honestly, that does not sound like a good idea to me. In terms of networking, you need the fastest NIC you can get. A fast Ethernet NIC is your bare minimum. A gigabit NIC is better. Now, though, because we're talking about server grade hardware, at the very least, a high-end workstation playing the role of a server, if not literal server grade rack-mounted hardware. If you can go for a 10 gig NIC, go for it. So now there's a couple different types of servers, and we've actually kind of mentioned this already. So we've got our connection server, and we've also got our security server. And I think there's one other kind. So you've got your okay. There's a couple different kinds of connection server types. One of these is called the standard server. One of these is the replica server. A standard server is, which you might just call the connection server. You might need, if you have a small implementation, you may just need the one standard connection server. If you have a larger implementation, what you may need is replica servers. Basically, so you can load balance the work of brokering these connections between your clients and your resource pools. The other thing you can do is set up a security server to essentially provide remote clients their own connection broker in the DMZ. In the DMZ, you can set up connections between remote clients and internal desktops. You can enable, you can authenticate You can authenticate across the network, authenticate remote users using things like Radius or RSA two-factor authentication, things like that. So you got your connection server. So yeah, I covered all of that. Good. Like I said, you're providing your remote clients their own dedicated broker because it has different needs than your internal network. Remote clients to internal desktops, authentication. No, Radius and RSA two-factor authentication are two different types of that. Radius is one of the primary forms of remote access authentication. TACACS is the other, but TACACS is Cisco proprietary. You are much more likely to set up Radius, which you may also have talked about in some of your other stuff. Now, One of the other things that your security connection server allows you to do is place the whole thing in the DMZ and also place the thing on a server that is independent of your Active Directory. So it may still need um, Radius for its authentication, and who knows, it may talk through Radius to the Active Directory. But if you've got a Radius server in your DMZ, you may not want it to talk directly to your domain controller on the other side of that DMZ inside side firewall. So, and then let's take a look at what it looks like. This is what it looks like in a UI. Kind of vaguely familiar to the ESXi host, honestly. We've got your options, your main bar, your layout. We'll explore this in more detail in the demos. So thank you for watching, and my next video will be about the agent, the Horizon agent, the Horizon composer, and the installation process. And then we'll have the first set of lab demos. Thanks, and I'll see you later.